Alright, so got a small change coming to the 331 stroker. So for those who aren't familiar with the setup, I'll say it again, 331 stroker, comp cams 274 HR camshaft, blueprint 190cc heads, 76mm turbo from On3, and then a bunch of other little stuff. Stock block forged internals, crank, rods, pistons. Actually, I think the crank is cast, actually. Rods and pistons are forged, though. But this upper intake, or the intake in general, TrickFlow R series, I should have got the box upper, but I got just the regular R series 90mm intake opening. And so I've been on the search for an R series intake manifold, the box upper, just because it it flows a little better. An issue I'm having is right around 57, 5800, the power kind of starts to dwindle. I think the way this design is really made for is low end torque, low end power, because it's like a really long runner and then kind of comes back. More or less what I'm looking for is something with like a nice long straight runner. That'll really help with top end power, which is what I'm looking for, more over the low end torque stuff. And so when I mentioned that on my last live stream, Frank 3 Stangs, I call him Frank Stangs, but his YouTube name is Frank 3 Stangs, and check him out, by the way. He's got a channel. I've watched a bunch of his videos, but he said, hey man, I got one if you want to buy it. What are you looking to spend on one? And I told him, I was like, well, I'm looking to get one for about 300 bucks. I've been finding people not wanting to split up the manifold, and I don't blame them, but I found one for sale around here. I was trying to convince the guy, like, hey man, would you part ways with just the upper? He didn't want to do it, but Frank was like, yeah, sure, I'll sell you mine. Here we have it. This is the TrickFlow Box R upper intake. I believe it looks to be about the same. It looks like a 90mm opening. As you can see inside though, there's really, if you can see inside, there we go. Pretty much no nonsense. Fills up, and then these runners just go straight down through this little spacer right here, right into the intake. Whereas on this intake, it kind of, like I said, the air comes in. It's very long. These are really good for low torque. So I would say for street driving, this is probably the much better one because you got the long runner, develop and give you that torque down low. But we want as much horsepower as we can get, especially up top. So we're gonna just make the switch to this upper intake. So for like the third time in the past, or actually for like the fifth time in the past few days, let me yank this upper intake off, and then we'll go ahead and make the change and get this guy on. All right, well, it wouldn't be me if it was all easy and worked out. So what I went to do really quick, this was kind of set back and there was a lip here. And so what I was trying to do was basically just loosen the top up and bring the, I wanted to basically take the upper off and then move it back forward to where it's nice and flush. The problem was one of these bolts got, they have thread sealant on it, and this is no fault to Frank at all. They have thread sealant on it, and it was just stuck. So I had to do a little bit of work to get it out. And when I got it out, I basically had to wiggle this back and forth to get the bolt to start to loosen up. Then I was able to loosen it up. Plus I mashed the head pretty good. And in the meantime, I accidentally broke the O-ring. So not a huge deal. I ordered the whole entire hardware kit for it to be the O-ring. It's got all new bolts and stuff. Plus what I noticed, the bolts anyway, I would have had to do it anyway because the bolts and studs for this are not the same. For this, they're going to have to be a little bit longer, and then there's one long bolt that goes through the top of the other one that's not on this one. They all have, this kind of, they all have this like spacer right here. So either way, I had to order all the bolts anyway. Not a massive deal. Just a couple days setback, whatever. So what I'm actually going to do is throw this intake elbow and the throttle body back on the car. Just leave it on for now, and then once I get that stuff later on this week, we'll go ahead and throw this Box R upper intake on. In the meantime though, crankshaft, set of heads for the 454, plus the block. So, if you don't remember, I said my 13-year-old son is going to build this entire engine. So we had to go 30 over on the block. So we're at like 4-inch 280 thousandths for the piston. I had to get new pistons. I just went ahead, got new pistons, new rods, obviously new rings. We had to go 10 under on both the main and rod journals on the crank, so I had to get some new rod bearings. Once I get all that stuff in, we'll take it back to the machine shop for him just to balance the crankshaft. They're press fits, and I'm probably going to have them just throw the rods and the pistons together too, just the wrist pin in, because I don't have the machine or, I know there's ways you can do it with a hand torch, but I'd rather just have them do it. It's usually 30 bucks for them to throw that stuff together. So 454 builds coming along, but like I said, that's going to be a whole series where I'm going to be the cameraman for that, and Jonathan, my son's going to be the one doing all the wrenching. All right, so in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that stuff to come in for the intake, it should be here tomorrow. It was pretty cheap. It was like 50 bucks for the whole set, gaskets, bolts, nuts, everything to put that thing to O-ring. Having an issue with this 28-10-5, you can see all the spots that it's getting cut down. I've even already rolled these fenders, and what most people do is they just get some sort of a saw and cut this lip off. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to take the 28-10-5s off and put the 26x8.5s back on for two reasons. One, I want to see if it changes anything as far as 60 foot and mile an hour and stuff at the end. But big one, yeah, these tires, they're rubbing on the inside as well. So, we can't run this 28-10-5. I'm going to try and look for, I want to run a 26. I want to run a 26 by 9.5 if they have it. So, I'll probably look and see. I know I think Hoosier sells a QuickTime Pro, it's a DOT tire, but it's basically a radial. If not, I don't know, we'll have to figure it out. But I think a 26 by 9.5, I could probably run a 26 by 10.5, but I don't think, we'll see. Let me get this off. I'll show you the inside, how the inside looks, but yeah, these are cut up. These are cut up pretty good. Alright, so you can see right here where the tire was rubbing on the inside. This side of the car is not too bad. There's a small mark, but this side is where, the driver's side is where it's rubbing pretty good. So it's rubbing right there, clean to the metal. I know a lot of guys will just take a hammer and just kind of bash this in a little bit, but I'm not going to do that because, I figure it's there for a reason until I, get somebody to actually fabricate some stuff. So we'll just put the 26s back on. They have more than enough room under here. I'm waiting on some parts. If the parts get here early enough, what I'm going to do is throw the box R intake on the car, the upper anyway, and then we'll shoot down to the track. If not, we'll probably go down to the track. We'll test the car out on the 26s with the old upper intake, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, we're down here at Thunder Valley. The weather's pretty great. They're running cars already, so Alright, so first pass, we just came out and it got out about maybe 30 feet and then spun the tire, so I'm going to ramp the boost in, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take about 2 pounds of air pressure and leave it the same, and then we'll see if that fixes it. I scrambled it towards the end just to, I figured might as well see what it takes out the back since it wasn't going to be anything crazy with like a timer or whatever, so let's go ahead and look at the data real quick. Alright guys, so just looking at the data, the glare is pretty rough so you're not going to be able to see it. I left on we actually left on 4.5 pounds, so that probably contributed to blowing the tires off. So what I did was I lowered the launch down about 3.5, and then I hit the scramble towards the end, like I said, just to see what it would give us. It gave us 13 pounds, but we ran out of injector right there. So basically 12.5 pounds is our limit. So I'm gonna do for this one, I'm gonna drop the air pressure by 1 pound. I softened up the leave just a touch, and then I put another 1.5 pounds on the back end of it. So hopefully on this pass we will 60 foot okay, and then by about 1 second full boost will come in, and we should see about 10-11 pounds on this one. So we'll see what we got. But it left, I mean, it hooked and left, but then it got out, like I said, about 30 feet and then just started smoking the tire. So you know, that's one of those things where it's not always going to be perfect, so it's on me to try and figure it out. Anyway, gonna let the car cool down for a little bit. We'll go ahead and load back up and get out. Well, me being the genius that I am, I forgot to click the data log button, so I have no data from that last run, but the time slip is very promising. So how about another personal best? 6:37 at 109 miles an hour, and check out that 60 foot. 140 with a 4. Not bad off a foot brake. And so being that I have no data, we'll go over the changes that I made in here really quick. So on boost, what I did was I ramped it in. So I went to, on the dome setup for as far as leaving, we wanted to leave on, I don't know if you can see that. So I tried to leave on 3.5 pounds, which I have no data to see if that is what we left on or not. And then I ramped the boost in. So I was basically having it just put like 5 across the board or 3 across the board or whatever. But since we had that 60 foot that, not 60 foot, since we blew the tires off in the first hit, I ramped it in slowly from where I knew that it hooked, a little bit below, and then I ramped it up so by, you know, right around just after the 60 foot, it will have all the boost for the rest of the run, and then we'll cut off if we ever got to 9 seconds. The other thing I did was I took 1 pound out of the rear tires, both sides. I was at 15, but obviously after the burnout, tires heat up. They went up to like 16, so I dropped them, well, to 14, so you figure after the burnout, they probably went close back up to 15. And then the other thing I did, which I did it last minute, I didn't say it, was I tied down the front end a little bit. I put 2 clicks in the front shocks to tighten them up, and that got us away from doing such a harsh, because that first hit, I mean, the car rocked back really hard, and I mean, the front tire came up more than it ever had. And then basically at that point, it got to a point where it just blew the tires off, and I had to pedal it. And, so tightening up the front end with those 2 clicks on both sides obviously worked. The car didn't really rock back, and the front wheel didn't really come up as hard. It felt like, you know, being a little stiffer, it helped it get out a little quicker, which, I mean, it clearly did. It went 140 to the 60 foot. And we kind of, you know, in the software we softened it up, so that suspension change probably definitely helped us. 26 by 8.5 really surprised me. I didn't think they were going to run as well, but I've seen people go incredibly fast on these things. So we'll run these for a little while. The 28 10.5s that I had, I just got rid of them because they got tore up really bad from rubbing against the rim and the you know, the quarter panel and stuff, or the fender well. But super happy. Two things we found out today. One, you know, learn a little about the suspension, adjustments that we need to make, and then we found out where our injectors are done. So I feel like this boost setting right here, this is as fast as car's gonna go on this injector. So we got the parts for that box R intake, we'll throw that on. I mean, we'll probably go out there and see if that makes any difference, but as far as adding boost, this is really it. You know, 101 injector duty cycle on 12 pounds. What I put on top of the gate here probably got us close. Granted, I had no data. I'll have to do another run to see, but that should have gave us about 10 pounds. So, and honestly, I think from here too, I think what I could actually probably do is basically leave that setting that I have in and then start messing with the air, fuel, and timing. Because I think if I lower the air fuel ratios, that'll free up some injector duty cycle. Because right now I have it a little bit on the richer side, so I can start leaning it up, you know, point whatever here and there, maybe throw a degree of timing in it or so, 2 degrees. We'll see how it reacts, and then yeah, we can start doing that stuff until I have the ability to get a bigger set of injectors. So anyway, guys, really happy with the car. I love doing this stuff, love testing it out. I mean, after I make passes, people are always running over. One guy came up and he was like, man, I watch your YouTube channel, good stuff. And then another guy came up. Every time I do a pass, you know, someone, the way the car looks, and then they see it go down, and it's like, man, what do you got in that thing? And they always think it's an LS, which it's not an LS. You know, nothing against that, but it's just not what I really want to do. So pretty happy. 3/10 away. 3/10 away from $599. I really think we're going to get there. You know, throwing some boost into it is, I think, what's going to get us there. Obviously, tuning the car a little bit. I like to get that 60 foot in the 130s, like a 139. So, new goal right there, 139, 60 foot, 3s half track, like a 390 something, and then a 599 8th mile. So, anyway, guys, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. As always, take care. We'll see you on the next one.